Curtis Ellis. You can read him on WND.com. He's also the executive director of the American Jobs Alliance. Curtis, good morning.
Good morning.
Now, what do you think about this whole thing? Let's get to the Orlando massacre and Trump basically calling on just a complete pause on anybody coming into the country until we figure this out.
Well, I think that we should have a complete pause on immigration, legal and illegal, and not just from countries that have a whole lot of terrorists crawling around like rats in a sewer. I think we should. We have levels of immigration that are unheard of and unprecedented. Right now, more than 1 million people a year are being admitted to this country, and those are the ones we count. It's not even counting the people who are swimming across the Rio Grande or overstaying their visas, which we learned is like almost 500,000 people. So we need to get a handle on this. We don't have this untamed frontier anymore. We have overcrowded cities. We have a declining job employment compensation rate. We have a declining wage rate. And a simple law of supply and demand says if you have too many people bidding for too few jobs, the price of the wages are going to go down. And that's not in the best interest of Americans. Now, you got people out there, the globalists, they don't think we should be doing what's in the best interest of Americans. They don't think there is anything such thing as America. And they believe, quite rightly, the argument being, quite wrongly, I should say, but quite clearly, let's call what it is, the arguments being used against Trump and his call for a ban on immigration, a suspension of immigration from terrorist watch list countries, they're saying, well, everybody has a right to come here. Well, if you extend that to its logical conclusion, everybody has a right to come here. We have no right to restrict who comes into this country for any reason. Today they're saying we can't do it because you're a Muslim from countries that have Muslim terrorism going on all the time. Tomorrow they'll say we can't restrict it for people who are coming here because there's gang violence going on, which, by the way, that is the exact argument that Obama uses to justify bringing in people from Honduras and El Salvador. Oh, these people are victims of gang violence. They're fleeing gang violence. Let's bring them in here so they can bring their gangs with them. And so it just goes on and on and on. The argument that they use against Trump would be used to erase our borders entirely.
Okay, so what about the fact that so many Republicans have disavowed Trump's call for a pause in immigration? I said this the other day, Curtis. Rand Paul said the same thing in the presidential campaign, only instead of saying Muslims, he named 35 Muslim countries. Okay, so basically the entire Muslim country population, he said, should be banned. Rand Paul said that during the campaign, nobody said a word. Why is everybody going bananas here over Trump saying, let's not let anybody in until we figure it out?
They're not saying that because they're wusses, because they are being fed a line of crap from the globalists, and they're swallowing it. They believe, for the most part, look, our country has been steeped for 40 years, 50 years actually, in the left-wing narrative of identity politics, that there is no such thing as an American. There's only a hyphenated American, and the American part of the hyphenated American comes last. We have Black Americans, we have Hispanics, or actually, that's just a way station, a stepping stone to the real message being pushed by the left with their identity politics. We have Hispanics, we have Blacks, we have Mexicans, we have Muslims, we have this and that. There is no such thing as an American, and so that's been the prevailing atmosphere that everybody's operating in for the last 40 years. So it's natural that the Republicans have breathed this in. I mean, I hear these S.E. Cupp, who's a supposed conservative commentator on CNN, and she mouths these words of identity politics and, Trump is making making otherness out of these people, and it's the pitting one against another, and they've adopted the Democratic narrative, the Democratic Party narrative, and the left-wing narrative of identity groups, ethnic groups, as being the most important thing going on. And so when Trump rightly identifies the message, identifies the problem as unfortunately, a faith, a religion that is harboring killers, or let's put it this way, killers who are using a religion to justify their murder, and said, we've got to look at this a little closer. They say, oh, no, you're now targeting a religion, and that's not good, and we are all for freedom of religion, and that's all I can think about right now because I've got to go to a fundraiser and raise some more money so I can dissolve the borders of America.
Yeah, look, Curtis, that basically is it, and you're right. A lot of these so-called Republicans or conservatives on TV that are not comfortable with Trump because he doesn't fit into their whatever their box is really ridiculous when you get him on, because at the end of the day, Trump is saying if you don't have borders, you don't have a country. And that's what he's been saying from day one. And the fact of the matter is, the people who are coming into the country who are radical Islamist, terrorist, they're Muslims. I mean, they're not Catholics. So, I mean, you hate to call it out, but it is what it is. They're not Protestants. They're Muslims.
Yeah.
So I don't know how else to be honest here. These are Muslims that are blowing people up. Doesn't mean their religion is bad. Doesn't mean they're wrong. It means that that's what they are. So why, look, we had this guy on an FBI watch list, okay? He made Facebook posts about this. He scoped out this gay bar, several times now, we understand, with his wife. She never reported it. Same thing in San Bernardino. You know, you go into their apartment where they had pipe bombs all over the place. Nobody reported that. So Trump is asking the question until we get a handle on this.
And why, right, exactly, why do we want to let people in who might repeat that activity? Not just the bombers, but their close friends and the members of their community who will not report this this aberrant behavior, to put it nicely. It's this dysfunctional behavior, this criminal behavior. How about that? This criminal terrorist behavior. They are clearly not willing to report it because they feel more of an affinity to their own kind than to the country they live in and to the law and order system of that country. I think right there, that's a good reason to say, we're not letting you in. Now, here's another point, is this country was founded by people of certain values. And I know the left says those values are racist and it's all a bunch of white European males who are racist and sexist and this and that. Well, I'll tell you what, we built a pretty good country. We built a pretty good country along the way. And why would we not prioritize on immigration? Why would we not prioritize people who come from countries that share our values, that don't want to put women in bags and stone them and kill them and mutilate them if they go out on the street alone? Why don't we prioritize people that come from countries that understand that women are free, that people are free, that religion, you have the right to worship the God of your choice, or no God at all if you're so misguided? Why don't we have a right to prioritize, to populate our country with people that share the values we have, rather than just let anybody in, and we'll let in people who don't believe in freedom of religion, who don't believe in freedom of association, that believe in a totalitarian cult that says if you don't obey what the imam says, you deserve to die. I don't want to live in a country like that. If I wanted to live in a country like that, I'd move to Saudi Arabia. Why are we bringing people like that in and letting them in?